Are we on? We're going live, guys. Let me thank everybody for being here on time, and let me thank everybody welcome Tom for coming on, so that we are slowly but surely filling our vacancies, and we really appreciate all the fingerprinting and state trooper things that you had to do. Tim, you as well. I don't know that we thank you for all of that.
Do you believe those questionnaires they make you respond to?
As well for all of that. But let's get started. Welcome to the June meeting of the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority, and thank you all for being here. Our agenda today includes a review of the City of Buffalo's adopted budget and gap plan for 2025-2026 budget year, the adopted budget for the Buffalo City School District, and the financial gap plan. You printed the wrong one.
I did.
What am I doing? No, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
Give me the,
I don't have the right one. You want to defer it for a moment?
Or I can.
Or wing it?
We can wing it, but I don't know. I don't have the piece of paper to wing it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Okay.
Is this a roll call?
So our agenda includes a review of the district's financial plan. We have a representative from Borough here to talk about the lead remediation grant.
Right.
We have requested from Commissioner Dowell a parking authority update, and thank you. And you've already noted that we have Tom Keenan. Welcome to your first meeting. And we are going to start with a resolution honoring the contributions of Nikita Fortune.
Good, I can read that.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me the tabs?
Okay, you got it.
That's great. Okay, as many of you know, our former administrative assistant has,
Should we do a roll call?
I think we're gonna, well, yeah, I guess we should.
Yes, we should do a roll call.
Okay.
My apologies.
Director Rowe, can you call the roll?
Yes.
Thank you.
Secretary Floss.
Here.
Director Sanfilippo.
Here.
Director Hogue.
Here.
Director Keenan.
Here.
Mayor Scanlon.
Present.
County Executive Pullenkard.
Present.
Thank you very much. We have a quorum.
Thank you. So now let us move to a resolution honoring our administrative assistant, Nikita Fortune, who has been with us since 2003 and has done an amazing job while she's here. So, whereas on July 3rd, 2003, the New York State Governor signed into law Chapter 122 of the law of 2003, known as the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority Act, which created the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority to assist in the restoration of the financial stability in the city of Buffalo and within its covered organizations. And whereas Nikita Fortune was hired as an administrative assistant to the BFSA on December 8th, 2014, and served the BFSA for over 10 years until May 30th, 2025, demonstrating exceptional dedication, professionalism, and integrity. And whereas Ms. Fortune ensured the smooth operation of the BFSA's daily activities by providing skillful administrative support and served as a trusted resource to the board of directors, the executive director, staff, and stakeholders. And whereas she exemplified the highest standard of courtesy and attention to detail, contributing substantially to the development of the written record of the BFSA, in addition to the success of numerous projects and initiatives. And whereas the Board of Directors of the BFSA wishes to formally recognize and express its sincere gratitude for her outstanding contributions and the impact she has made. And whereas Ms. Fortune's contributions to the BFSA, the City of Buffalo, and the community will endure and positively impact future generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority does hereby honor and appreciate Nikita M. Fortune for her outstanding contributions to the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority, to the City of Buffalo and its residents, and to the Western New York community. May I have a motion to accept? Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I note that it was voted on unanimously. Nikita, thank you for coming. We want to say that we really do appreciate all your hard work. You've really allowed for our meetings to run smoothly, unlike today, as we go through. So you know you're being missed. And we just want to make sure you know how much we appreciate you and want to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you so much. It was truly a pleasure. I appreciate the 10+ years I was able to serve you all and the city. It's definitely an honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So, and have fun at the University of Buffalo, where
Thank you.
You have a great new position, and we wish you all the best.
Absolutely. Go Bulls.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Got it.
So, I think the next thing on our agenda is to review the resolution, the minutes, oh, I'm sorry, to approve the minutes of the June 16th, 2025 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second? Any additions, corrections, or anything that hasn't already been noted? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain just because I wasn't at the.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll now move on to the authority businesses. We have a report from the governance committee and a recommendation for approval of a number of our practices, such as the bylaw, code of ethics, mission statement, and others. I'll accept a motion to approve those, and then we can discuss them. A motion, second? Okay. Director Rowe, do you want to walk us through this thing?
Well, I think what we're going to ask is for, not I think, we're going to ask for the board to take all of these in one action. There are very few changes to the policies and procedures from last year. They were discussed with the governance committee. And there are two, in addition to the policies and the procedures, there's two reports, one being the prompt payment report, which ultimately reported that we paid everything on time. There was no penalties, there was no interest paid by the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority during last year. That's consistent with the prior years. And there's also a procurement report, which New York State requires any procurement in excess of $20,000 to be reported. We take a more conservative approach and we report anything over $5,000 because our policy is more constricted than what the state's policy is. So anything over $5,000 we report on there. So I think with that, it would be appropriate to move this to the board and ask for a motion to approve.
Okay. I think we have a motion to approve all of these, and a second. Is there any other discussion from the directors on this motion? Remembering that now you'll have to fill out your form recommending everything in our evaluation. Okay. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Okay. So, our next item of business is to reconstitute our standing committees. The Audit, Finance, and Budget Committee members will consist of myself as committee chair, Director Hoag, and Director Keenan. The Governance Committee members will consist of myself as chair, Director Sanfilippo, and Director Hoag as members. May I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman? I was going to make a request that I be removed from the Governance Committee and reassigned to the Audit, Finance, and Budget Committee.
I believe we could do that. That then would mean that we need, I'm trying to think of who, Director Keenan to go on the Governance Committee. Would that be acceptable to you? Anyone else want to move while we're moving?
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
I don't think you're taking me off. I think you're.
Oh.
No, we're trying to do this. If I still need, somebody has to be on twice.
Right, so instead of Andy being on twice, you just suggested that I would be on twice. Is that, or you already are?
I'm only on the Governance.
You're only on governance, so
Oh, it says.
I just want to go from one to the other.
Andy on
Took Andy off governance. We
governance,
have a vacancy on governance.
and then
We
we have,
Who's on governance now?
We have Sloss and we have,
oh,
Hoag.
so we would need Keenan to come off of, but you don't want to do
We
that.
want him to be on governance,
And they're suggesting
and we want to keep
that they want to keep direct.
Unless you want to keep
So
me
you
on
wanna
both.
be on.
We
So
could,
is there a max?
I don't think there is.
Is there a max or
There's
no?
not a max, there's a minimum of 3.
Okay, so why don't we just add
Oh,
Andy
okay.
to,
But
Yeah.
then we will have an even number, so for anything to
Oh,
pass.
that gets jammed
Yeah.
up, we don't have.
Yeah, it just gets,
Your quorum.
it would complicate my quorum and everything.
I mean, I could come off of,
Audit, we have
um,
Sloss, Hoag, and
because you want to be on it.
I want to be on.
he wants to be on there.
But then
So-
you just go take my place on governance?
I'm
and-
already on that.
He's already on.
Oh, you're already
That's
on.
the problem, we don't have, if we get the additional members of the, authority, then this won't be a problem. But right now, it's a problem because there's only enough of us to be on this. So either Tom goes
I can
to
drop off.
governance, but you have to stay where you are or we screw up everything.
So if I drop off of audit,
Right.
time goes on, then we're good, right?
But he's already on.
It's just adding
And
I
you're
mean,
on.
if Andy goes, I'm sorry.
If Andy goes on,
That's what I meant.
Mhm. Yeah, but then I still need somebody else on
then on
governance,
That's what I was.
and Tom would do that.
Unless you want to stay on governance also.
Me? Well, sure, but
I mean, Tom can,
I thought that screws up the.
No, that scores up count quorum.
No, you take me off. I was never on governance.
No, why don't we, here's what I think we can do. Andy goes to audit and finance, and Tom goes to governance. And when we get more people, we can review this again and rearrange that. I would accept a motion to that effect. Everybody good?
So moved.
So moved? Second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You understand what we just did, right?
I don't know if anyone.
Not in
So, Director Keenan is now going to be on governance. And he's leaving budget,
No.
yes. And
So that's our.
Director Sanfilippo is going to budget. We just flipped the two of you. And that way we have 3 on both,
Okay,
okay? And we'll revisit this when we get more members. But at this point, I understand that it would be good to have both the former comptroller and budget director on the budget committee, along with the economist who does budgets. It makes a lot of sense to me. But
well, that's what I was thinking too.
But at this point, I think that we just need to have people on the committees to make sure that, we can move forward.
Okay.
I didn't
Okay.
mean to complicate everything.
No, that's okay. Andy, you always seem to complicate everything.
Who are we kidding?
Our next item is to follow up our discussion that we had at the last meeting with the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency, because we had questions particularly about the lead abatement and the funds that are there. Importantly, the July deadline to enter into the contract is passed, and the funds must be dispersed by October. Could a representative from Borough provide us with an update on the grant? Thank you.
So my name is Maria Chuddy. I'm the Senior Program Manager at the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency. And some of the questions posed were how many contracts were entered into ahead of that July deadline, and how much was the average contract for. We were able to enter 18 contracts between January and the July deadline. The average contract was for about $22,875. That leads us to a total of 34 units contracted, 25 of which we've achieved clearance on, and 11 of which are currently in process to be completed and fully drawn out by that deadline, or the October deadline.
So what's the total number of contracts as of October then? 28 plus 11?
Yeah, so it'll be 34 total.
34 contracts. And then how much money are you going to end up having to give back?
The approximate estimation at this point in time is about $1 million.
Okay. So there's $1 million. You asked for, my understanding is you asked for an extension. This was the second extension, and you didn't receive the extension, right?
Yes, so we received an extension in 2024, and we were told at that point in time when we had requested a 2-year extension that we would be granted a 1-year extension with the additional option to extend for another year in 2025 once that 2024 extension had run. When we returned to our grant representatives to submit the request for that additional 1-year extension that we had been led to believe was, just a formality that we had to request, we were then informed that we would not be able to achieve that second extension, and we were informed of that officially in June. So we had to scramble between June and that July deadline to ensure that any contracts that were underway would be able to be satisfied by the deadlines that we were given, and those that we were not able to do so, we transferred over to the county to ensure continued uninterrupted service for those households.
Mark, to you? So, I guess our concern is how we end up having to give $1 million back to the federal government on a lead program that's obviously critical to the city of Buffalo, given all of our lead pipes. Do we have a process to make sure as we go forward that this can't happen again?
So a couple notes. One, this is a lead-based paint abatement program. So this is only for lead-based paint in units that have a child 6 or below in the unit. So this is not for lead pipes.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure that that's clear. And in terms of the lessons learned here, unfortunately, this grant did roll out in early 2021, contracted with the Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency in April of 2021. At that point in time, it was still very difficult to get inside of units and conduct those lead-based paint inspections. There was, people had other priorities at the time, and lead-based paint abatement was not one of them. And so there was a slow start
to the program. We did see an uptick in applications as we entered the post-COVID period, and we released some of the limitations that were initially imposed on the grant. So initially, at the outset, we were limited to 4 census tracts in the city of Buffalo. We then lifted that geographic limitation so that we could serve the entire city. We saw a major influx of applications and interest after eliminating both that limitation and the lien requirement. So there is an affordability requirement in the units that we serve, that they must continue for a period of time to be occupied by a low to moderate income household. That was secured by a lien. We eliminated the lien and replaced it with an affordability agreement that the owner would sign. So when we instituted both of those changes, we did see an uptick in interest, and I would say, should the city and Bureau partake in another similar program in the future, those are significant lessons learned in terms of this process, and I would hope that a future program would not be rolled out in a similar time period where we face the challenges that we did.
So, yep. So other counties got this grant, and they seem to have been able to spend down all of the money, even though COVID, and it does look, at least from discussions that we've had, that they were also able to leverage other funds to do that. You know why Bureau didn't do that?
The Bureau was able to leverage, I believe, somewhere in the ballpark of 125, 150,000 in community development block grant funds.
Okay.
So that would have occurred when someone came to us for lead abatement and they maybe also needed a roof repair or a sewer line repair or something that would have deemed the unit infeasible for us to go in and do the lead abatement. And so we would have layered the community development block grant funding to do the roof first or the sewer first or whatever that emergency need would be in order to stabilize the home and then go in and do the lead. So we were able to leverage a portion of the CDBG funds, which was a part of the grant from the beginning. We had to pledge a match amount that we intended to do so. In terms of comparable municipalities and their performance under this grant, I can't explicitly speak to our peers and what they may or may not be leaving on the table. Obviously, the county has been running this similar program for decades and has a lot of experience and lessons learned in doing so, and we've learned a lot from them in rolling out our grant. I will say anecdotally, when we've attended the conferences associated with this grant, that there's been a lot of shared frustrations across the country. The certification requirement for the contractors doing the work under this program is a high bar. It's the EPA lead supervisor abatement certification, which I think has gotten a little bit confused sometimes with the RRP, the renovation, repair, and painting certification, which is a lower level EPA certification. So the requirement for the contractors doing this work is higher than what a lot of the standard certifications that you would see in the community are. So it's a limited pool of contractors that can do this work, and that's a frustration across the country in terms of getting those contractors certified and trained up. As a part of our program, we did administer about 12 scholarships to local contractors in order to get them that certification and get them into the pool of contractors for both the city and the county to work with.
Okay. I mean, it seems like Albany and Chautauqua, the 2 other places in New York that got this award, got an additional $5 million and an additional 4-year grant. Did we apply for that? And then were we refused? Or was there some other reason why we weren't put into the pool to get the additional $5 million?
So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they would have applied for that in last year's notice of funding opportunity.
Right.
We would not have been eligible in last year's notice of funding of opportunity because we were still running the grant in question. So we wouldn't have been eligible at that point in time to apply.
So will we apply then when this grant runs out for the additional money?
I don't have a confirmation at this point in time of that, but in terms of the availability of funding, there is a continuing question as well as to whether there will be subsequent rounds available to apply for. But I think it's certainly something that is on the table. But at this point in time, I don't have a confirmation of that.
I'm sorry if you've already said this, but who would have had to approve the second extension? And do you know why they didn't?
So the grant is administered through the HUD Office of Lead Hazard Control and Healthy Homes. So the federal government, yep. So we have a grant representative that we work with. Every grantee is assigned a specific representative. So we submit any requests that we have, like an extension request, through that representative. I think it's been escalated to their supervisory team, and then it was based off of, as we understand it, recent guidance that had come down regarding the review of unspent funds that influenced the decision around not granting that extension. Whereas we had otherwise been told last year that we were likely to get the extension.
Sounds like you had anticipated that
We
you
did.
would get the second extension.
And we weren't confirmed until June that we were not receiving it. And
And
we,
again, the reason was just they didn't want to do an extension on unspent funds.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you for coming. I guess I have a couple questions. One, what was the application process like, and how was it advertised for individuals to be able to know about the opportunity to get this done?
So the application process for the households or
Yes.
for this, okay.
Sorry, for the residents.
Yeah, so so Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency works with community-based organizations to do the intake and outreach for our various suite of housing programs that we offer. So I mentioned the Community Development Block Grant Repair Program, as well as our owner-occupied improvement programs, things like that. So we worked with our community-based organization partners to.
How many?
We have 4 that we work with currently. And then we also worked with the Department of Permits and Inspections for them to also, when they're going out and doing their proactive rental inspections, to provide information about the grant to those homeowners and tenants. When we go out on the clean sweeps in various neighborhoods throughout the city, and we do an information drop, the information regarding the grant and the application information were included on those as well.
Is it as simple, straightforward? Is it paper? Is it online? Is it?
So it is a paper application that is filled out with a community-based organization representative. So if you live, you have one of our community-based organizations, depending on what neighborhood you live in, you would be assigned to one of those specific organizations. You would go in or over the phone and provide the application information, and then they would tell you what supporting documentation you would need to collect. So that would typically be pay stubs in order to verify the low to moderate income status, which is the eligibility. And then so it would be pay stubs, Social Security, tax returns, things like that are what we use to verify income. And then we worked with our rehab administration partner, Belmont Housing Resources for Western New York, and they are the ones who conduct the inspections, the bid, the specs write-up, all of those things in order to get the work done.
So the community-based organizations help the applicant filling out the application to obtain documentation and all that stuff if need be? Okay. And did we do any advertising? Did you guys do advertisement?
Yeah, so
Media,
in terms of Bureau's social media, there were postings on Bureau's social media. I do believe, over the lifetime of the grant, that there were pushes in social media, whether it was our community-based organization partners or Bureau's social media. I do not believe that there was a paid advertising campaign beyond just the social media.
would that have been allowable in the grant?
We may have been able to budget that in, yeah.
I think that's key. I mean, so many people are getting their information from social media, so that would be huge. I guess the last question, Andy had a question.
Go ahead.
So you said you guys made a shift and you relaxed some of the requirements and the areas. When was that made, and what made you guys think of that?
That shift was made in late 2023, early 2024, and we saw a market increase following that shift. In terms of, the lead up to that time, there was, a lot of turnover in terms of the program management of the grant. And so it was at the point that a new program manager and HUD program manager, as well as senior director at Bureau came in and took a harder look at the grant, that those decisions were then made.
The last question, are you doing anything proactively in case the monies become available again to get more contractors to this higher level of certification? Is there any ongoing plans to get more contractors certified at that level?
So at this point in time, we've sunset all activities under the grant, but we've established, I think, successful process in terms of soliciting contractors to take these EPA courses and the subsequent tests associated with them. So I think were we to, hear that we were given an extension, or were we to apply for another round of funding under this grant source, we would have a good template for how to approach that.
Is that a quick process, quick turnaround for them to start the certification and complete it and get to work?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the scheduling of the classes. Folks typically have to go out to Rochester to take the class or take the test. So that would be the most difficult piece of it, would just be in terms of making sure that the classes were offered within the window of time that we would be offering the scholarships, but certainly the more painless parts of the process.
The last question, I promise. I'm sounding like a Baptist preacher. I apologize. Do you know, or do you have an opinion on if there are enough households in need that meet the criteria that we could have expended the money if they were able to apply on a timely basis and all that stuff? So is it still needed?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I mean, given the nature of the housing inventory in the city of Buffalo being pre-1978, there is certain.
Thank you.
Could I piggyback on that? I mean, looking at the statistics, and I apologize for my unfamiliarity with how that all works, dealing with HUD or whatever, but you would think that Buffalo, the second largest and probably the 6th or 7th poorest city in the country, so I guess initially Chautauqua County gets $3 million for 140 units, Albany gets $3.5 million for 160. Schenectady gets $3.4 million in its original grant for 203. Then the city of Buffalo only receives $2 million for 110 housing units. I guess initially, when were these funds proposed or presented for our ability to use this money to rehab or for lead abatement? What year was that?
So I believe the grant application would have been submitted in 2020. I was not a part of the team that submitted that initial grant application or did the initial program design. However, I know that there, may have been a consideration in terms of, it being a bit of a pilot for the city, so not wanting to,
So curiously, though, looking at these statistics, you would think that Buffalo would have been the lead
in terms of receipt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how many years did they give you in order to spend these funds?
I think it was an initial 3-year grant.
3-year grant.
Yeah.
And at what time during those 3 years, once you initially received, not you, but the city received the grant, did you determine there was only $700,000 and then we got a lot of catching up to do? I mean, what was this on people's minds throughout the process that would say, hey, we only spent $700,000 of these funds, of a $2 million grant? I guess I'm trying to understand the mindset of the administrators who are supposed to be processing this lead abatement program. So forgetting the fact that Chautauqua, Albany, and Schenectady have been getting more revenues or more funds for that, was it a priority in someone's mind or management to start pursuing more aggressively the expenditure of these funds for lead abatement?
I think it absolutely was always a concern of, you know, both the Office of Strategic Planning and Buffalo Urban Renewal Agency that were involved in the management of the grant. As I mentioned before, there was a great bit of turnover during that time, and so I think the program itself went through 4 different program managers, if I'm not mistaken, during the term. And so once we got to around, you know, late 22, 23, is when I started being involved as well. And I know at that point in time, it was of great concern. And we were really looking to see what it was that we could do in terms of, to turn the vote around, so to speak. And that was when we instituted those policy changes for the program that ultimately ended up seeing an increase in the units applying and the units being cleared. And I think based on that performance that we saw over that 1-year period, had we received this additional extension, we would have met the original objectives.
But for the most part, it was like all the activity was too little, too late. Okay.
I guess our concern is that this doesn't happen again. I think that's the major point in all of this. And I would hope, and maybe we can talk about a resolution later about Bureau, but that we need to have some kind of report that shows that you have a plan in place, that we're not giving back millions of dollars. I mean, if you look at your $1 million and $20,000 per business, that's 50 houses with I don't know how many children that are going to be impacted because we didn't get our organizational house in order. And so part of our job here is to make sure that we do get our organizational house in order, not just financially, but are able to put out projects and make the city of Buffalo better. So I want to thank you for answering. I mean, it's not your fault. You were just set here as the messenger, and I want to make sure that you realize that we appreciate you coming, answering these questions fairly honestly. We understand this is not your fault or necessarily your problem, but we do need to find a way to make sure that we're not giving back millions of dollars when the city is looking at a financial shortfall, and that we're doing this in the best way possible. So,
I have one last question, Chairman.
Go ahead.
Are you aware of any legislation or promotion that is going to rekindle this lead abatement program coming out of Washington? Is there any legislation being proposed, or anybody, again, promoting the re-upping of another grant to help out on lead abatement, or is funds being cut? I think this is more a Washington question.
Yeah, so I mean, from what we've heard from our grant representatives, funds are likely being cut because this is not one of the entitlement grants that we deal with, like the Community Development Block Grant, the home, the ESG, those grants. Obviously, we know nothing for certain at this point, but that has been the general message from our grant representatives, is that they have been kind of in a lot of uncertainty themselves and don't really have much to report on.
So it appears unlikely that Washington would move on trying to reignite a lead abatement program that we're aware of through your grant people.
In the immediate term, I don't know that there is another round of funding beyond this year's that would be available to apply for.
So I know you're ready to close on this, but when you wrapped it around the opportunity for 50 households, 20 households, whatever it was, and how many children may be in those households, and then it links to health concerns, it links to educational attainment concerns, and so much more that that makes it important for us as a city, as a community, to be able to take advantage of dollars when they're available to look at it just, hey, we shouldn't be giving the money back, but
Right.
it's the impact.
It's the impact.
It's the impact that it has on those families and those children, and it happens down the road if they're eating, consuming lead paint chips and that.
Thank you for that. And I just, to be clear, it's not just the lead abatement program, but all of the programs in Bureau. We've got to make sure that there's a process in place, early warning systems that allow us to make sure that, these kinds of things don't happen again in any Bureau project. I think that's what we'd be looking for, if you can take that back, is we need to make sure that the processes are in place so that we have well-running programs. And this is always hard, and we're not just doing this to Bureau. As Mr. Barnes will tell you, we're doing it with the school district and others. It's our job. And we appreciate you coming and having this discussion today. If you can bring back our concerns to your bosses, that would be great. And I'm sure they'll be hearing from us in the future. Anything else? Great. Thank you very much for coming again. All right. We'll move on. Unless there's something else, we'll move on now to review the Buffalo City School District 2026 to 2029 financial plan. This review is focused on the review of the 3 out years as the budget was reviewed separately at our June meeting. A copy of the staff's analysis and report is provided under tab 5 in your board book, along with a copy of the district's financial plan. The findings will be reported out by Senior Analyst Nathan Miller. Will you lead us through that?
Absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon. The following is BFSA's analysis of the district's 2029 plan. I'm going to begin with a brief introduction of the plan, walk through the key findings of the report, and then provide some additional context. We'll review the key risks and opportunities of the plan as well as we move along. Okay, so for starters, the adopted budget was passed by the Board of Education back on May 28th. This board conducted its review on June 16th at its board meeting. The financial plan was submitted to BFSA on July 17th. We know that both the adopted budget and the financial plan were submitted after the April 8th statutory requirement. This board advanced a resolution that extended the deadline for the financial plan by Resolution 2502, declaration of the incomplete financial plan was received following that extended deadline as well. The financial plan depicts a structural deficit as projected expenditures exceed forecasted revenues in all 4 fiscal years. The adopted budget includes $78.8 million deficit, and each out year depicts budget deficits ranging from anywhere from $22.3 million to $31.8 million. It's a fairly substantial drop off in out year 1 from the adopted budget. We'll look into that closer in a little bit. The plan contains a cost reduction plan, largely focusing on aligning total staffing with the number of open buildings that declined pupil enrollment. What that means is that over the last several years, especially with a lot of additional federal funding, staff has grown and the population has pretty much declined inversely to that increase. And so the district's looking to realign. Out year 1, 26, 27, the district plans to close 2 yet-to-be-named schools and eliminate 100 full-time equivalent positions from the general fund. An additional 50 positions are eliminated in the following 2 out years. So a grand total of 200 by the end of the plan. Positions are eliminated as people retire for attrition. Layoffs are possible, but also vacant positions will be removed as possible. take a closer look at general fund revenues. Revenues increase in each year of the plan. Increase at a 2.2% average annual growth rate. The net increase over the plan is $74.6 million from year one to year four. Expenditures are a little bit different. Expenditures are projected to decrease slightly by only about $100,000 from year one to year two, and then increase at an aggregate of 0.6. A rate less than the rate of increase within the revenues, but it's different because expenditures are essentially flat year over year from 2025, 26, 26, 27. That's because of reduction in positions and also the closing of the two schools. Next key finding, the district has appropriated $78.8 million of fund balance to fill the current fiscal year gap. The four-year gap is $158 million. District currently has sufficient fund balance to fill these deficits over the next 4 years, provided that some of the risks that we'll talk about do not materialize. District estimates that total fiscal year end 2025 unrestricted fund balance was $342.5. That's an unaudited number. And that fiscal year end 2029 unrestricted fund balance would be $188.4 million. Unassigned fund balance at that point would be slightly greater than the board's 4% recordage policy by 7.8. So unassigned would be $56.1 million at the end of the plan. This slide shows historic fund balance and projected fund balance. See that the height there was in fiscal year end 2024 at over $400 million. Last year had an actual deficit close to $50 million. It's still at the forecasted number, but there was a reduction. And then the plan includes reductions in each fiscal year. Next key point is that all collective bargaining units will either have expired contracts or expiring contracts, with the exception of the bus dates. Teacher contract is the largest of those. It expires at the end of the current fiscal year. Our internal estimate is that the district has included a cumulative $20 to $27 million for both step increases and annual contractual increases over the financial plan, and that if you gave each group, union group, either a 2% raise or a 3% raise, holding all of the things constant and using the current staffing model, it would be $65 million for a 2% increase and $98.3 million for a 3% actual increase.
Is that with the step increases included or not? Is that just the across the board?
Just, yeah.
And then you estimated,
I'm sorry.
there's two parts to the way, yeah. Can you explain how you did that?
So it would be like a chart that breaks out a little bit later, but that estimate's my estimate for a 2 and a 3% increase. Does not build in what the district has already built into the plan, so that number would be somewhat less. I figured that it was either between 20 and 27 cumulatively over the 4 years. So a 65% would be 45 or 40.
But
So that's just the number that it would cost us to pay if they gave a 2% raise across the board with every pilot.
For the contract to be, okay.
And then the other one is a 3%. Yeah.
And then you were asking about steps.
the steps are on top of that.
I got it.
So most of it's, between 5 and 9% in aggregate between
Yeah,
COLAs and steps, depending on
that's
yeah.
what we were, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that was,
I'm sorry, the 20 to 27 million, you said it includes both steps and salary increase.
That's what's built into the plan.
Yeah.
By the district, yeah.
And how much of those numbers are for steps versus raises?
Didn't break it out that way, but if I reduce those two.
Well, I guess simple question is, how much has been built in for raises? The steps are going to happen, presumably, and And they make up some piece of that.
Right. I don't have a breakout steps plus raises, but that's the cumulative steps and what the district has set aside for raises too, for that.
Conceivably, it could be zero raises if it's all steps. Or,
It wouldn't be quite that high, but
well, that's what I'm trying to get a sense of.
right, it's point in between, I would say.
Jim, do you know?
In the assumption section, we have, BTF is at 2%. The substitutes are 3%. BCSA is at 2%. Teacher aides and assistants are 4%.
And those are just across the boards, or is those?
They're- Like our projection for the current year includes step longevity and contracted. It's a very
Okay.
good projection model. So these are, and then picked up 4%.
So that's what you add to these numbers?
That's what's included in the plan.
Yeah, okay, in the plan. So if you subtract those amounts year by year, what's in the plan now, from a 2%, you come up with 6.5 in your out year one, 11.7 out year two, 22.1 out year three, for a net of about $40 million cumulatively over the 4-year plan. That would be additionally required, all of the things held constant, to settle at 2%.
Andy, as you mentioned, there's a lot going on, and so we're pretty good at our salary, we're very good at our salary projections, but we will be reducing 200 staff during that time too.
Nathan, if you want to.
Sure.
From the budget.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The next one is,
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just not understanding this, but it says that the total amount included is 20 to 27 million. You just told us that built-in increases for almost every union.
right,
Then how would a 2% raise add another 65 million, you're estimating?
it would add 45. It's
The difference.
So the difference between two, yeah.
But the numbers you just told me, it sounds like everybody got at least a 2% and some even higher.
Yeah, I mean, I can go into the methodology.
It's, I'm just gonna kind of.
Does it change that $65 million number, Jim?
It's
I
different.
think so.
Jeanette, go
It
ahead.
adds to it.
You thinking that's too big of a number?
Andy?
I'm sorry,
Jeanette.
I apologize.
Okay, Director Keenan. So what Nathan is providing is the difference in the approach and how we calculate what will be needed in the financial plan to provide these collective bargaining agreement raises and what Jim has put into his financial plan. So it's a risk that we've identified in the plan. Not saying we know for sure, but there's a risk that there's up to a $45 million difference between their calc and our calculation. It's a different way of approaching it. That makes sense.
Not making clear why there would be a different number if they both say that they built in. Jim's saying that he built in the raise, it's already there. And it's saying, but if you built in a 2% raise, you would need $65 million more. So Jim's saying it's $65 million. His opinion is too high.
Yes.
For a 2% raise, and seems kind of important. Why?
All right, so
Nathan, go ahead.
the methodology used was that we took average annual salaries from 24, 25, and aged them up a step, gave them all the contractually available, whatever, if they were covered under a contract, gave them that and a step, and I assumed steps based on historical step increases. Then gave 2% in all of the years where there was no, for example, like teachers, gave them their 4% contractual increase for 25, 26, and then gave them a step and a hypothetical 2% on top of that in years 2, 3, and 4. That's how I arrived at $65 million for a 2% increase.
So how was it calculated?
With ours, and it's in the assumptions, we take our current head count and the current average salaries, which gives you a total salary, and then say it's a 3% contract increase. We're increasing that amount by 3%, but we're reducing it by a reduction in the head count.
So did we take the 200?
Yeah, absolutely. I should also note that that includes benefits as well, though. So that's part of the missing piece here, is that that net cost would be the impact on pension,
Oh,
on security.
total.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that.
Okay, so.
Oh, okay, that's it right there.
So we're different, yeah.
There you go.
So we now-
Thank you.
It just worked a little bit, we're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay, anything?
That might be hard for you to tell all of this stuff in your head, but would that count for a $40 million difference?
So benefits are huge.
I know that.
Yes,
So it could.
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Nathan?
Yep. We're gonna move along to the employee benefits. This is where the financial plan is very different from prior year plans. Budgeted employee benefits decreased significantly from 25-26 to 26-27 by 17.7 million, or below 7%. This is driven by a substantial $12.2 million, or 20% reduction in retiree health insurance. What that is based on is, we noted that when the adopted budget was approved and when the financial plan came, there's about a 2-month difference. By then, the district had much clearer 2025 numbers. So the unaudited number is, for last year, is 52 million.
Right.
That makes up a portion of why there's such a big drop off. They base the out years on a more realistic prior year number. Also, the district is projecting significant decreases in gross allowable health insurance related expenditures billed through its third-party administrator, and extensive conversations with the consultant. Those conversations yielded the projections for the 3 out years. And the impact of cost containment strategies, including targeting the top 3 claim categories. I can tell you that the number 1 of those 3 is weight loss drugs, something and such.
So when we say targeting containment, cost containment, y'all know there's conversation at the county too, as far as, well, across the country, as far as the impact of these drugs. So what type of strategy are we?
I know there was an article in the paper, but it only gave claims through 2024, and they said the Board of Ed was 3 million. The claims that when we close out 2025 will be $12 million. It'll be a $9 million a year increase. People are signing up more and more every month. So we're self-insured.
Mm-hmm.
So the changes, the cost control have to come from the insurance carrier, which is Health Now. January 1st, they're instituting a stricter policy on the prescriptions. Right now, I don't have it exact, but it's say it's a 30 BMI and 1 comorbidity. They're raising it to a 50 BMI and 2 comorbidities, because they won't write a prescription for the drug.
So and I won't take up too much time, but it's interesting. I don't know if we've done the work to see. I don't know how long they've been out on the market, but are you seeing any improvement in?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I think you asked for this last time.
All right.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Are we seeing the benefit, right? Are we seeing faculty or staff more available? Are we seeing them reporting to the emergency room less, or are we spending less? Are we seeing less heart attacks? All that type of stuff.
I think it's a great question that I'll pose to our claim administrators, but I can tell on a gross basis, no. I mean, our health insurance claims, self-insured, they keep rising.
Yeah, and I think to be responsible, it's tough, because you talk about quality of life, you talk about a whole bunch of things that happen with this. And so you really got to look at the data over time to see if there's an impact.
Right, and the city has very similar challenges regarding these drugs, right? Because you have the GLP-1s, You have prescriptions for specific things like, diabetes, other actually like medically diagnosed, items, but then you also have the GLP-1s that are used for weight loss purposes, and strictly that. So there may not be any clinical, prognosis that would necessitate like another hospital visit, but, those weight loss, prescriptions in particular, eat up a lot of the expenses. So that's really what's been on the rise, at least I know on the city side, and I can only assume on the school side.
County side.
County side, everything. So it's particularly the weight loss, those prescriptions, which are the challenge, right? Because yes, you have people taking them, but then there are noticeable effects for being overweight or different lifestyle, but it may not be an immediate benefit at the time. That's so. To Jim's point, it's a similar thing with the city. But yeah, the formulary, and I think that's what it is with health now. The formulary change would have an impact.
Yeah, they've exploded.
Is there a distinction between whether those drugs are prescribed for diabetes versus weight loss, or you have to cover both?
Well, that is part of the formulary, and the health broker would be able to break down the differences between the two, so all based off of the prescription, right? But the proportion of the weight loss elements of those is what usually is what's exploding in popularity.
That's for that cross-section of BMI and comorbidities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the county's LMHF, just recently approved new rules. I don't recall exactly what, but under the same lines of increasing the BMI to a threshold with 0 comorbidities versus, a lower threshold with multiple comorbidities, and that should hamper some of the growth with the GLP-1s.
Jim, do you have to negotiate your formulary with the unions in the contract?
Not the formularies that come from Health Now, no.
It's really not until, and there's no generic drugs available right now that are normally covered. That's a part of the issue too. You just have the name brand, which are usually, so until generics really come on the market.
Generics, but I wouldn't trust.
Yeah, well, right, yeah, I don't think, so, that's really when you would see significant cost decreases.
But this could also be an issue for negotiations then, if it's not, if they're allowed to just change the formulary at any point in time. And that's why the state actually has a union represented and civil service represented board that goes over the formulary and puts people.
Yeah, and so
all
for
of that.
LMHF, it has labor and management.
But you're saying that it was the school board doesn't have that.
Coming January 1st.
You said something about a $9 million increase from one year to the next. Is that included in your projection?
Yes.
It's already included?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
The second part of that is what happens in the out years. Budgeted general fund employee benefits increased by cumulative $4.5 million from 26, 27 to 28, 29. So I know that retiree health care expenditures are significantly lower in all three of the out years than in the 25 budget. This is one of our big opportunities and threats to the plan. Now, if the savings materialize, it frees up a lot of money that the district can do for whatever else it needs to do. That's the opportunity. If they don't, for some reason, then they would have what I had was cumulative $42.6 million of additional retiree health care costs, and that's just assuming zero savings based on this and projecting out what's in the adopted budget over the 4 years, using a 3.4% increase annually. It might be all of that, it might be in the middle, but it's an opportunity and a risk that we point out.
So one of the things when I got on the board, I warned them, I said, I ask a lot of questions. They said, that's okay, Tim.
Yeah.
But then they look at me when these meetings go 5 hours and they're like, what the heck, let's get out of here. Well, I guess my question is, why do we believe it's gonna be lower in out years?
As Nate explained, and I really enjoy our meetings with Nate and the rest of the staff. They really pick into my numbers and challenge our assumptions. I put in the plan the adopted budget to avoid any confusion as to what you're looking at. That adopted budget for the retirees' health insurance line was overstated. Because when I put that budget together, we didn't have the full fourth quarter numbers, okay? They came in at 52 million. I budgeted for 61 million.
Okay.
The 3 outer years of the plan are based more on the 52 million
Okay.
and not the
Gotcha.
61.
Okay. And you did mention that earlier.
Yeah, and, yeah.
The next key finding, the 24-25 adopted budget, district continued a lot of what had previously been funded by our master funding. At that point, it had a $45 million run rate. This is probably what I would call like the keystone of the right sizing initiative, in that it's not a continuing run rate. It's being phased out over the financial plan. That's a key finding that we have. That includes, what it did include in 24-25 was 150 FTEs, including a lot of security guards. After school, summer programming, those have all been downsized. They're still being funded and provided. But with the closure of the schools and reduction in FTEs, it gets weaned down a little bit.
Is that 158 FTEs part of the 200? So this is what's going to get you down to the 200, is getting rid of these programs?
Yes.
Over the last few years, the district has spent approximately $40 million in transfers to the capital fund. Large amount of this funding was used for projects that were not subject to New York State building aid. During 24-25, the district implemented phase 1 of the capital improvement plan. The project includes 21 health and safety related projects, and with a total cost of $37 million. All this is New York State aidable, is 97.1.
Perfect.
Aidable, and following years building aid.
So,
Go ahead.
new superintendent coming in, all right? And
Yes. Got a tough job.
So these plans have already been reviewed and discussed with him and all that good
No.
stuff? Oh. When does he start? I'm sorry.
He starts Thursday of this week,
Okay.
but he's sworn in Thursday night. He's here physically
Yeah,
Thursday,
yeah.
sworn in Thursday night. Friday, he'll be with the board and the Council of Great City Schools all day. I will actually meet him in depth for a Monday morning meeting.
I asked Jim that question earlier.
So forgive me, does he have any ability or authority to impact what is already set forth?
Well, sure. As the superintendent, he could go to the board with budget amendments and wide changes from what's outlined in this,
Okay.
in the 4-year plan.
Okay. All right, just hit me.
I think it'll take him a little time to absorb.
Yeah, and I think he said that's what he's gonna do, he's gonna come in and learn and all that stuff.
I'm looking forward to Monday.
He won't be.
Good. Nathan, why don't you bring us home?
Thank you.
That's keyword for Tim, that's enough questions.
That was phase 1 of the CIP. Phase 2, the details on that, this includes the Buff State Da Vinci project. Except for this project, the intent for phase 2 is to be fully bond financed and not rely on transfers from the general fund. Sale of the bonds is of course dependent on the city of Buffalo. Approximately 24 million of the Da Vinci project will be aid.
Thanks. How come the 97% won't be applied?
Yeah, it depends on what the usage is for. If it's not the classroom instruction, then there's areas that are not subject to your state building aid.
Okay.
Central commissary is our next key finding. The master plan assumes a fully executed lease in early 25-26 this year. Lease payments begin after construction is completed in 26-27. Then I just want to go through the costs here. The additional lease costs will create pretty sizable deficits within the food service fund, not the general fund, that will be funded using reserves for approximately the first 8 years, and then there is a general fund impact in years 9 to 15 of approximately 23 million will be funded through budget appropriations. After year 16 and thereafter, the lease payments decrease to a minimum of $100,000. General fund impact, but not within this financial plan. The final key finding is that, I really touched on this before, but a lot of the key cost drivers have reduced rates or flat rates of increase in the financial plan. It's very different from what we've seen before. We'll talk about charter school in a moment, but charter school payments are projected flat in all 3 out years. Revenues total, tough to get this number so large, it's $1,107.7 million in the adopted budget. And it increases at a much greater rate at $74.6 million over the plan. This is driven by New York State aid, which is the largest funding source for the school district. Net increase of 65.7 or about 7% of the plan, but with an assumption of a 3% inflationary rate. Less building aid, which declines over the plan. What are the risks noted here? Potential New York State aid cuts. Aid could be impacted by potential federal aid cuts. We've had a lot of, Tim and I have had a lot of discussions on that. There was concern about 25, 26. Those funds have been released. The amount that the district noted could be at risk was $8 million, and so we don't know if the out years are going to, what will happen in the out years. So we have that as a risk of $8 million a year, $24 million over the plan. Along with that, there's potential Medicaid reimbursement cuts. Future reimbursements could be negatively impacted by federal appropriations. Ties right into the U.S. budget reconciliation law, which sought to decrease the rate of increase in certain federal outlays. If the district were to lose federal Medicaid reimbursement, it would be between $5 and $5.3 million annually, or $20 million over the plan. So the additional risk, not in any way, shape, or form within the district's control what the federal government would do. Expenditures are projected to decrease slightly from 25-26 to 26-27, and then increase $20 million over the rest of the financial plan. By 28-29, it would be $1.2 billion. Employee compensation is $432.3 in 26-27, slightly greater than the adopted budget. This includes the aforementioned decrease of 100 FTEs. And over the plan, after that increases, employee compensation increases $11.1 million. That includes all the numbers that we discussed earlier, what was included for salary steps and assumed increases in contract costs.
So the number 200 or 100?
100 in year one,
Oh,
200 combined.
okay,
So 100 then 50 then 50.
okay.
Then we can just, this is how the staffing plan looks. BTF employees versus all
Oh,
employees.
yeah.
All funds, general funds. BTF is 2/3 of all full-time equivalent employees. Now, those are the numbers. 150 teachers combined in years, 50 all over.
Said 150 teachers?
150 from year one to year 4. 100, yeah.
And that was through the summer programs and partially, or in the school?
School closure.
School closure.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
Two essential parts that are right sizing are closing two facilities. And then the 200 reductions in FTEs. 100 in next year's budget. To help the new superintendent see that these goals aren't aspirational, we've already put together a list of 22 FTEs that are retiring or vacant right now. I really wish he was here and we can go through it all.
Mm-hmm.
He could start making 20 to 50% of those reductions, not hurting anybody, no layoffs, this year to get ahead of next year's goal.
So I guess
So it's not aspirational, is my point.
Right.
And they're, when we talk the word teachers, not all teachers are classroom teachers.
Okay,
There's
so that's an important
100 and-
distinction.
Yeah, there's 180 right now, what we call TOSAs, teachers on special assignment, that don't interact with it.
Okay. So is it a heavy impact to non-classroom teachers?
Yes.
Because when I hear it and when the public hears it and they're saying, hey, we need teachers in the classroom.
No, we sure do.
And so, okay, especially given the diverse population of the Buffalo public school system.
Yeah.
And the need for more, I don't know if it's one-on-one, but ratios have to be there in order for, second, for individuals that were English as a second language and that type of stuff. And those individuals that are impacted by lead paint,
Yes.
to receive that additional, instruction and focus to help them be successful. So I'm glad I'm hearing that its focus isn't teachers in the
No.
classroom.
Yeah, I mean,
So one more thing real quick. And so are we looking at, I think there was a discussion before on those individuals, that assist in the classroom, like specialist type individuals. Are we looking at, I'm drawing a blank on, so not the aides, but,
speech therapist.
speech therapy, yeah, those that push in.
Especially,
Yeah, so,
So the special education, teachers, no, those are mandated, so we never make cuts.
okay,
Those are mandated. Our problem with, special education teachers, we can't find enough of them. So there's always quite a few, there's say the budget's for 600 of them. We might only have 520 filled at any time. And it's incredibly hard to fill those vacancies, but the state mandates keep driving that number up as well.
okay. It was, I think I saw something, I can't remember if it was months ago, was it about, mental health instructors or, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
counselors?
And I would like to address that.
Not now.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I think it's
All
a
right,
great
all right.
Maybe you're talking about staff, especially in those areas.
Yes,
It's important as classroom instruction.
yes,
You had pre-ARP ESSER, and excuse me if I don't have the exact numbers, but the point is absolutely factual. Say we had 500 social workers, guidance counselors, attendance teachers, then during ARP ESSER, that number went up to
skyrocket.
800. So when the funding dried up, the plan was always to bring it down to pre-ARP ESSER numbers. When the funding ended. Well, the funding ended. Then the argument came in with the needs of the children are higher now. But there's gotta be a middle, now I'm speaking like I'm feeling accountant, but there's gotta be a middle, what we found.
there isn't any other.
What we found is middle of the road is the appropriate number to provide the, needs of the children, and that's all this does.
So I guess, once again, just like the drugs, I would love to see the data that shows, like, with, how that impacts our children, our students that are
Sure.
going through.
I mean, it's hard to come by, but yeah.
Jim, I just got one quick I apologize.
No,
I just got one quick observation. I was looking through the documents earlier. It just says, it looks like that you're reducing teachers but increasing other FTEs. It says the district's general fund staffing plan includes reducing 79 FTEs, teacher FTEs in 25-26, and an additional 150 FTEs over the 3 years. With the 50 FTEs removed annually, all other FTE positions are going to be increased by 61 FTEs. So I was just curious, maybe some clarification.
yeah.
So you're going to be reducing teachers in 1 year, but you're increasing other FTEs.
That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about. I have dialogue there that shows over a span of time.
Over a span of time, right?
So 24-25 adopted versus 25-26 adopted general fund is a decrease. There is a slight increase adopted versus adopted in all funds, doing budget to budget.
That's throughout the 4-year plan though, right?
The plan, like, first year, 50 teachers, 50 all others.
All right.
That's the 100. Then in the outer years, it's.
And teachers don't necessarily mean classroom.
Correct.
This slide really, I mean, this speaks to all of it right here, is that this is the historic pupil to instructor and pupil to all. So you see the dip where it's 7.5 and 5.1, that's at the end of 24, this year 2024, that's where they had the big spending of federal funding. You can see how it bounces off the next year. That shows the impact of phase 1 of the right sizing initiative. Those are actual numbers. And then it looks like it's going back down, sliding down. That's only because it's based on the adopted budget and the financial plan. So those are hypothetical 100% filled versus prior years, which are actual numbers. Then yes, the teachers, Jim, you correct me if I'm wrong, last year there were position cuts of TOSAs, but they were offered positions in the classroom. So that, the 20 to 25 to 30, that's the number.
Yeah.
Moved from one area to another, and the positions, the vacancies.
Jim, you want to say something?
If we act proactively, which we can, we've already identified things, we can implement the numbers in this plan and not minimal layoffs, if at all, and actually maybe make the classroom experience better. Let me tell you why. We take, say, 50 TOSAs, we eliminate those positions from the budget. They go back and fill vacancies in the classroom.
But that's going to be my question. Are the TOSAs doing work that needs to be done by someone?
There's an
Put them back in the classroom.
argument over that. And we certainly think, would you rather have them doing indirect administrative work or teaching children?
It depends, right?
Especially when there's vacancies.
But my question, would you have to have somebody doing whatever it is that they're doing now other than teaching? Or are you really able to cut those jobs without impact on what you need to get done?
We think we can eliminate.
On learning.
Not all of them, but, like everything else, it's skyrocketed. Now we're just trying to bring it down to what we think is a more realistic number.
So I guess what we're trying to wrestle with, Jim, if I can put it this way, is we got all this ARPA and COVID money into the school district, and when we decided to spend it, we spent it in a way that increased FTEs and other things that looked long-term, when in fact what we should have probably done, and I think as a learning process, if this ever happens again, hopefully it will never do that, but that we should have been doing contracts for the extent of the money as contracted out, not as making them into permanent lines, and then wondering what happens when the money runs out. We'll worry about that later. And I think that was a fundamental budgeting problem that maybe because of all of the crisis, we didn't quite get to at the appropriate thing, and maybe that's one of the learning things that we all need to take into consideration when we're reviewing any of these issues. Can I ask you one?
I guess
Go
we
ahead.
include data collection as well.
Yeah.
On that, right? To see what the impact of this increased staffing or contracted staffing
Yes.
has on student performance. And faculty or teacher retention, right? I mean, that's the thing.
Just a quick question, nothing that we talked about here, but the school lunch program, both breakfast and lunches. Now, none of that's been put into any of these budget calculations. What's your hearing of whether or not that's going to be funded in some way from somebody, or is that, what are we doing in this budget?
In this budget, we are assuming things are gonna continue as they are, that the federal government will not cut the reimbursement rates for the food grants.
But they are cut according to Department of Education and USAID.
Like less of an increase, but we're not
Okay.
seeing that, and there's been no direct threat of that.
Okay, at least for next year.
That's correct.
If I can just ask, just quickly on the Medicaid reimbursements, can you elaborate on what Medicaid reimbursements the city school district gets? I guess I wasn't specifically aware that there was a direct relationship there.
Those two, the points you always make, our student population has many needs. Some of those services are performed by Buffalo school personnel, or we'll even contract out for services for some of the most extreme cases. There's a list of approved Medicaid reimbursable charges that we submitted to something called the Kinney system, every month. And as the needs have grown, the costs we incur have grown, but the reimbursements have grown to offset them some.
And that's direct relationship with the federal government, that isn't a pass-through with New York State?
It's a pass-through through New York.
Okay. Okay, so this is all wrapped up in what the state is going to decide to do with their, upcoming $750 million cuts
Yeah.
For next year.
for next year,
Yeah,
$34 billion.
for their prorated next year.
all right, but I should say, on the Medicaid reimbursement, it's, submit through the Kinney system. Federal government through Medicaid will reimburse us, the state takes half of that.
Sounds about right. Nathan?
Sure, I just have one other big point to make here is that, we talked about charter school tuition payments. Looking at just 25, 26, the amount is over budgeted estimated by the district by 10 to 15 million. Can't really figure out the exact amount until reimbursement starts to happen. That's right. But that is something the district's aware of that, occurred after the budget was adopted.
Right.
So that's year one. Years 2, 3, and 4, which increase in year 2 to 197.5 million, and then held flat. And that assumption is different from what we've seen in other financial plans where there's been some rate of increase. The reason that is included as an assumption is that the district's assumption is that there'll be a flat or declining annual operating expenses, which is what the tuition rate is based on. I did a little digging on that. The per pupil AOE in 21-22 was about 24,000. In 22-23, it went all the way up to 34,000 per pupil. That factors not just general fund, but also a lot of grant money, which is why it went up so much with the federal funding.
Can I ask a quick question? Is there a deadline for when state ed will provide these special ed rates?
I get, great question, and I should know that, but they always come out after 99% of the districts have already approved their budgets.
Okay.
And in some schools and things, the rates aren't done for 3 years. You're waiting 2 to 3 years to know what your rate is.
So then your budget is estimating on previous rates that they've been applied.
And the successful implementation of our right sizing,
Okay,
which will drive down, which will keep flat or drive down the AOE.
okay.
There's a lot riding on it.
Right, so to piggyback on that, that's why we've identified this as an opportunity, again, in a risk plan.
Right.
If, does happen, flat charter payments through the out years, it would free up a significant amount of. If it went up at a normal rate of increase, say 3% is what I figured, it would increase anywhere from 5 million, 16 million annually, and we quantify that at 47.7 million cumulatively over the 3 out years.
So this alone would then eat up all of their unrestricted reserves,
If it doesn't occur yet.
if it,
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
Our relationship with the state and charters, we're all for, free choice, fine. The accounting and economic rules in our relationship with the charters is abhorrent. I'll give you an example. Our total payments to charter schools in this plan will be $200 million a year. There's no difference in outcomes, but that's another matter.
And student performance outcomes?
No. But when they wanted their freedom and said, we'll go out and we're gonna hire our own special ed contractors, that's not what happens. They can't find the teachers or as good a teachers as we have. Our teachers end up going out there and in the special ed area and doing their special ed for them. Okay, we do that, I'm gonna send you an invoice. They refuse to pay the invoices. Then there's an annual reconciliation that we do. Because there's 10,800 kids, there's a lot of back and forth. They refuse to pay those. This year, the problem is, we're paying them at these higher rates, then they're telling the state that they're also entitled to IDEA grant money. They're not. They're allowed to intercept or fake IDEA invoices, and the state will take it right from our state aid payment and give it to the charters. It's bad. It is.
It's a disgrace.
Jim, do you have some type of MOA or some type of management agreement or something between the board and the school? Like, when you talk about invoicing for those,
No.
there's nothing?
No.
Maybe, I don't know if that's something,
And are a lot of those, special needs, teachers or whatever, are they certified by the state of New York, or are they just
I
have
have
their
no,
degrees?
I don't know at their schools, but I just know our certified teachers provide, I don't know, half the services over
I mean, my wife was a special needs speech therapist
there. Okay.
at School 84.
Oh,
And
special place.
special place, and that's where she retired from. And I can tell you that I don't know what quality of special ed, whether it's speech therapy, occupational therapy, or whatever, kids would be getting from charter schools.
What a special place.
So it's School 84?
Yep, the regional asset.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Sorry.
Sorry,
the whole side is.
I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem, go ahead.
So you're out of retirement?
Well, I'll summarize it this way. There's 3 remaining expenditure areas. Big one, debt service, which declines over the financial plan. We can always point out that Rateable projects get about 97 cents on the dollar back from the state in the following year. Transportation went up quite a bit in 25-26, and that's based on the new contract with per student. Then it goes up at a contractual rate over the plan. Again, transportation costs are largely aidable. The following year, New York State transportation aid at 87% reimbursement. Then finally, when you look at everything else, textbooks, contracts, you name it, they are $179.6 million in 25-26 and increased slightly by $2.4 million over the 4 years. The reason why it's not such a large increase is because of everything that we've discussed. Schools closing and lower operating costs. We'll defer. Should I?
Executive Director.
Thank you. So all the risks that Nathan reviewed, we put into a schedule to be able to summarize it and put some context around the numbers. The first one is the federal Medicaid reimbursement that we spoke about. That totals $20.6 million over the financial plan. Charter school tuition payments at risk is in the event that the operating expenditures that the calculation is based on are not managed due to some of these other factors that we have listed below it. Then there will be an increase to the charter school tuition payments, and that's directly related to these 3 points underneath it. That totals $47.7 million over the financial plan. General fund support for services previously funded by federal grants, that's the $8 million annually that Nathan spoke about, that is at risk. Those funds have been received for 25-26, that's why it's zero during this next budget year. Health insurance for retirees specifically, this number is if the savings are not achieved, and at a 3.4% annual increase, this is the incremental increase that you would see over the financial plan. And then the 2% increase in labor contracts amount, that's we had quite a bit of conversation about Jim's numbers versus Nathan's numbers. That's the difference that's placed here. So the total risk to the plan over the 4 years is $175.2 million. Importantly, towards the out years, you're able to manage those risks a little bit more. We'll be able to see how things happen. $20 million for next year, but I think those are probably on the lower end of risk. And then Nathan put the schedule together. Nathan, did you want to explain what this is?
Sure. The black bars are what's in those are the deficits that are in the financial plan. Then the orange and gray are 2% and the 3% increases. So this is fund balance projected on the financial plan, and then if there were increases to the need for fund balance.
And I think it's an important distinction, especially for our newer board members, that this is a shift in how the budget and the financial plan is put together by the school district. In prior years, one of our findings was consistently, you didn't include anything for increases. You didn't include anything in the financial plan for collective bargaining. We're now seeing that. So thank you for putting that in there so we have a more complete picture. Thank you. Next slide, please. So just to kind of pull it all together into the big bullet point, so to speak, the 26-29 financial plan, it is balanced. It's balanced with $158 million of fund balance, which is, of course, a non-recurring funding source. At the conclusion of the financial plan, the district has estimated, and that's assuming that all of this $158 million of fund balance is used, so worst case scenario, estimates that there will be $188 million remaining in unrestricted fund balance at June 30th, 2029. And of this $188 million, approximately $8 million will be available beyond the 4% reserve that the school district is required to maintain in their unrestricted fund balance. So the importance of the district to achieve an operationally balanced budget is stressed, as fund balance will not be available to fund budget gaps beyond this 4-year financial plan. Not going to belabor this next slide. I think we've been through it pretty heavily during this meeting, but the risks associated with the spending plan have been quantified at $154.6 million. That's the spending side of it. These are identified specifically in the areas of collective bargaining, healthcare costs, federal funding, and charter school payments. Next slide, thank you. The slide on the screen is a little bit is different than what you have in your packet, so I'll refer you to the screen for this one. In addition to the spending side, there's an $8 million annual reduction threat in federal grant funding. If these cuts were to occur, the general fund would continue to fund these programs, and services would shift out of the special revenue grant fund into the general fund. But right now, it's paid for outside of general fund. That's the risk side. And another area just to emphasize is the district's financial plan adjusts staffing in response to the decline in student enrollment. Beginning in 2026-27 through 28-29, a total of 150 teaching positions are eliminated in the general fund, along with 50 other positions, for a total general fund reduction of 200. Additionally, 2 schools are projected to be closed. Both of these key underlying assumptions used in the development of the financial plan require buy-in and action by district officials and the Board of Education. That's always a risk that there could be a disconnect with the desire of those stakeholders. And finally, our recommendation is for the district to develop a gap closing plan to address the financial risks identified by the Buffalo Fiscal Stability Authority. It's not a required submission. The financial plan is valid.
Thank you.
Could I just ask
Thank
one
you.
quick question? Thank you. Are the retirements, teacher retirements, enough to offset the need to have to lay off teachers? In other words, I don't know how many teachers are, are retiring. And I didn't know if there was an offset to the amount of teachers retiring versus the need to have to lay off teachers.
I certainly think so. Although, I guess wrong. The last time I was asked to do that, I think I was thinking of 300. It came in at like 170. One thing we have in our favor, the current VTF contract will expire. There'll be no further reason for them to stick around in the hopes of getting another 4 or 5%. This next VTF contract, just from the economic sustainability, is not going to be anything like the last one. And thirdly, we are just beginning discussions on a early retirement option. So much of this depends on the new superintendent.
Mm-hmm. I would think that after the contract expires, you may see a lot of teachers decide to bail.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking.
But on the other side, if there's a financial downturn, they may stay on because
Well, that's another story.
they're afraid of what's going to happen. So it's a double-edged sword
Yeah.
as we go.
Still has one more left.
All right, Tim. Go ahead.
All right, Tim, all right. Who recommended this guy anyway? The attrition of students, do we know what's going on with that? The student population, why does it keep trending downwards?
Actually, last year was
It went, right.
Yeah, like 140 to 200, depending on how you measure.
So, okay, I'll ask the other question. So do we know why we increased?
I believe, and looking at, it was a lot of new students to the country. I believe that was the major reason.
I'll catch up on
Yeah, no, that's good. Any additional questions?
I had two.
Oh, you're gonna, it's corner.
Okay, Chip.
Oh, no, dude,
Okay,
it's corner.
go ahead.
You talked about the reserve fund or the unassigned reserve, and it's 4%. Right?
You need to keep at least 4% of next year's expenditures.
Right, okay. And the city seems to have like a 1 month, 30 day.
Yeah, New York State education law requires school districts to have 4% reserve. The city doesn't have that requirement.
But theirs is like twice as much.
Right.
Yours is 1 month, yours is about a half a month.
That was 2, was it 60 days or 2 months?
The city is 30 days.
30
days. And the 4% equivalent's about 2 weeks. Okay, just wondering why the difference, but it's just
In most
education.
general accounting, it's 90 days, so you go.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question, but I was gonna ask you, obviously, you're in the middle of your, audit.
Sure.
Any ideas whether or not you're anticipating a surplus at the end of the year?
No, our approved budget was for an $83 million deficit. I think we'll come in at a $49 million deficit.
Almost as good as a surplus.
It's $40 million difference.
Yeah. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No cash flow.
All right. At this time, if there are no more questions, we can consider a resolution to approve the financial plan as a whole. A draft resolution was emailed earlier, and there's a copy that you were given today in your folders, was provided. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second? Okay. Hopefully, no more further questions from Fred to keep us all into this. So, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Our last agenda item is to receive an update from the commissioner as to the status of the parking authority. Commissioner?
Sure. Yeah. So, the administration's gonna put forward, in the first council meeting in September, all the appointments for the parking authority. So those are gonna go in the first, council meeting.
How many are those?
5. Yeah. And then, simultaneously, we also had RFPs for title and survey done. We had 3 responses to the survey RFP, all seemingly well qualified. So those proposals are currently being vetted right now. We do have an issue though with title RFP where there were no respondents. So, we have to go back to the table and see why that was. Possibly, maybe it was too restrictive. Sometimes that's the case with the RFPs, but we are looking to resubmit that out to the market in quick order to get that done. But we're moving as quickly as possible on those things. After that, that's where the valuation process really would take place, and that would happen in the middle of winter at some point early next calendar year. So that's where.
So where are we on your timeline?
We're still on time, just barring the title RFP. That process is one snag that we're trying to rectify. But with the board appointments and at least with the survey RFP, a lot of that we are well.
Have you gotten a financial bond counsel or anyone yet to put this all up?
Yeah, that's going to happen very shortly. Yeah.
It's the Corporation Counsel's office, though, that's drafting these RFPs? Who's drafting them?
The RFP itself, that came from the Office of Strategic Planning.
Oh, okay.
They handle a lot of the real estate. So they have general, it gets approved to form, though, by Corporation Counsel. So those already went, I mean, I have copies of them if anybody.
No, I just didn't know why
Yeah.
you wouldn't get a response.
Yeah, don't know. A lot of times, Yeah, based off of my experience with RFPs, sometimes it could be a couple provisions that are too restrictive maybe, but we're looking at that right now to.
Is the RFP just to do the title work, just to do the title abstracts?
Yeah, there's 2 RFPs, so yeah, there was the title work and then.
Can I see a copy of the RFP, when you get a minute? Yeah, I'll grab it after the meeting.
Right here, I knew someone was gonna ask.
Curious, no, I can't imagine why, I mean, it would seem like a great
Yeah,
project
no
for.
response. Yeah.
You would think.
So we're looking at that, but, outside of the title RFP, everything is pretty much on schedule. There will be no, as I've, said repeatedly, there will be no major advancements until all this is done. But we're looking at the end of this calendar year, very beginning of next calendar year, where a lot of that bond work will be well underway.
So what are you preparing, or what's being prepared to submit to the common council at their September meeting?
At September, the board appointments.
The board appointments? Okay, no, okay.
And then also,
No RFP results?
Well, for the survey RFP, that, the selection of that will also be submitted
Okay.
in the first, so yes. Good, that's a good question, yeah. Those 2 items.
Any other questions, issues? We wish you well on all of that. Okay, this concludes the business portion of our meeting, as included on the agenda. Is there any new business to discuss?
Can I ask about
Yes.
all the news about the bond issuance and that is,
Right.
I mean,
I think you're asking the wrong guy.
I see in the paper, but what is the issue? And, I mean, the 28 million seems to be advisory only, and it went up to 110 because so much of it will be reimbursed.
Yeah,
What's the impact
I'll
on
do
the financial plans if it's $110 million?
Yeah, so, yeah, the Cliff Notes version was, yes, the $110 million, borrowing was proposed early on. Once all of the resolutions were submitted and everything is said and done, that $110 million was reduced a bit, down to, I think, 56, 7-ish, when you combine all the city and school projects.
Reduced to what?
56.
Yeah, about 56.
From 110 to 56?
Yeah, so when the actual resolutions, all those.
That's not the way it reads in the paper.
Ours was
No.
second half.
Yeah, so that's part of it, but then also, controller set the cap at 28 million. That's really just what she wants to, outside of the ban, right, that $7 million for the ban, that's what she wants to go to the market for, and she has essentially.
Just from our
Yeah.
perspective, then we've been looking at financial plans, which includes some costs incurred for capital plans. What have we included?
Right, so on the city side, the city included the full, amount of that borrowing, up to the, I think it was the 56 million.
Okay.
So if we don't go to the market for that amount, that would just be savings, honestly. I mean, if that was going to be. for the
How would-
20
Debt
million.
service, yeah.
Yeah, that, on
Only
debt
the debt
service,
service,
yeah.
I was under the impression that the reason the mayor recommended an amount that was so much higher than previous years, because a lot of it was reimbursed.
Which is true. Yeah, this is true. So on the school side, about 97, 98 is
So
reimbursable.
then
plus
is
the-
it not really saving?
Well, 110 million wasn't all on the school side, so.
But does that mean that it won't really be savings because you're reducing your debt service payments, but you're also reducing a revenue that would have come in to reimburse the debt payments?
Well,
No, go ahead.
not for the city. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Okay.
it's, I'm gonna look at this in terms of 3 buckets. So the 110 million's in 3 buckets. 28 million of the 110 was city projects, going from memory, so hopefully my numbers aren't wrong.
28 of the 110,
Of the 110.
okay.
Roughly 52 million, 54, was school district, of which 97% of that's reimbursable. And then the third bucket was a bond anticipation note to front cash that was needed for projects that were subject to federal reimbursement. So that's because they don't have funds within their interfund loans to provide the cash for these programs. So they'd be getting a band, run those programs out, submit for reimbursement, the dollars come back to the city. So the cost to the city would be interest and issuance costs. But the payment itself would come from the federal government. So there's the three buckets. So looking at those together, two of them are highly reimbursable, one through federal aid for the city, and the second, the school district, 97% reimbursable from state aid. And then there's the 28 million city piece that would be paid for through tax revenues.
Right. So my understanding, the controller's okay with the band piece. The issue is the 28 million plus the school project, that the controller, is requesting the city and the schools to prioritize, come together and see what you can fit in to that 28 million. So really it's the 28 million plus the $7 million for the band. That's the maximum amount that the controller has expressed that she's comfortable with going to the market, for. So, that's where the debate is right now.
Is that the common council's decision?
Well, yeah, they already voted on the capital budget, and they would have to, what if they have a comment, they could comment on it, but right now.
So has the BFSA taken a position on what we feel? City can
But at this point, it's a ministerial duty by the controller's office at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So it feels like there's something missing in the conversation.
I will say, as a matter of practice, the capital plan that has been passed by common council for a number of years has exceeded what the bond sale has been.
Sure.
Yeah. And
that's almost always the case. Sometimes
Exactly.
there are projects that are just not ready to go, so they drop off. But that authorization still exists for a number of years.
Right, exactly.
But it's never, at least from the county's perspective, I can't think of a time when the county controller has put his, their thumb on the scale, determining which ones
No, they don't
will and will
determine
not.
which one.
Right.
So that's, and that's the thing. So the controller has made it very clear. She's not picking and choosing projects.
No.
She's asking, rightfully so, priority list, right? This is the cap. I am going to the market for 28 million plus the 7 million for the band. So the city and the schools need to figure it out.
Yep.
Right? And that's, and that is, by charter, she has the right.
By charter, she has the right to sell as much as she wants.
Yeah, so that's where the debate is right now.
Why by charter does she have the right to determine the amount?
She's chief fiscal officer, and she has, because she's the fiscal oversight person and determines, what's fiscally responsible. Now, you're looking at a city that's approaching a $60-70 million deficit, and this is a personal opinion. You really want to borrow 110? And you're trying to pay down decades of overspending on the capital market that was done in the 80s and 90s? I don't know.
I guess
Right.
that's what
Part
my
of the
question
debate is
is.
Yeah.
the reimbursable portion, which,
Yeah, the
is-
reimbursable portions are different.
right. So just to make it clear, yeah.
This body should have a position on how they feel about either what the mayor and the common council have approved, or this control that the controller is putting on. Because we're an oversight of the city's finances.
But I would,
She's the chief financial officer, but
And I think we have to weigh what we didn't want to do was get into the negotiations between the school district, the city, and the comptroller as they're working out their process. So that's part of, but I do think that there is a role for this body to talk about how that cap is calculated, for example. If we look at projects, there should be a way to evaluate projects so that you're not rejecting projects that bring huge economic benefits, but because this year we're $2 million over the cap, we just don't do it. I mean, there needs to be, from an economist standpoint now, a cost-benefit analysis done to talk about what the appropriate limits are. I think one of the fundamental difference this year from other years is this is the first year that the school district has come back into the process. So that cap used to be only the city's cap. And I think that we have to have a better understanding of when the city and the school district are borrowing, when there are reimbursables, how we come up with an appropriate cap. I don't know, I mean, I think that the staff has been starting to look at that. I don't know that we're at a point right now to bring something to the board as a policy or a recommendation, but I think all of these things and all of your input, because all of you have been doing this kind of work for a number of years, more than, you know, a lot of the folks in the city and the school district combined on all of this. So we need to start to continue to work on this to put together an appropriate recommendation for a policy. I just don't think that we wanted to get involved into your negotiations in the middle of it, which would have probably made it worse, not better. But I do think that we need to sit down and not, I mean, I guess what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, is we're going to ask the staff to sit down and work on that so that we can have further discussions on what an appropriate cap would be and what an appropriate analysis would be on how to do that. Is that?
Yeah, I didn't feel that there was the clearest methodology for where that $28 million figure came from.
It came from the fact that the city got cut out of the bond market in 1976 for several years, and the city had to develop a appropriate fiscal plan to get back into the credit markets.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, since 1978, when they finally got a credit rating of Baa1, the lowest credit rating to issue bonds, in order to do that, we established, when I say we, I wasn't the controller, but the Office of the Controller, through its financial advisors and bond lawyers, said we had to do a couple of things. Number one, you have to create a capital debt service fund where we should be AAA rated. When I say we, I mean the city of Buffalo should be AAA rated, because every year you reserve all your tax collections in July and January to pay off your outstanding debt before you can even spend one dime for a teacher's salary or anybody's. So that was the one thing. There's an insurance policy that's in place where no monies, no tax collections get spent until that year's debt service requirement has been satisfied, number one. Number two, because there was so much outstanding bonded indebtedness, they implemented a fiscal policy to pay down more debt than they issue. And what was happening was our debt was greater than $20-something million a year. So what had happened since the 80s, we started paying down more debt than we were issuing, and that's where that $28 million, if you go through the history of all the city's debt bond deals, you'll see that it's always been like 25, 26, 28.
But I mean, $28 million in the 80s compared to $28 million
Yeah.
today.
No, but they're still paying debt.
It was 933, 9 for the city, 3 for the board, and 3 for the water fund.
Yeah, but then they had
15 million.
and then they had the Joint Schools Construction Board and started
Well, that's,
paying for everything else too.
that was
Yeah.
later.
No,
But I mean, but
But it was a fiscal policy that was established long ago to pay down over $400 million of outstanding bonded indebtedness, which was really like a threshold.
right.
And so,
And so the question is, in reviewing all that and analyzing, you know, what's the appropriate level now?
yes,
And how do we move forward and all of that? I think that's something that we need to sit down and work on, obviously with all of your help and expertise as we go through in the history that only, I think, one or
Well,
two people probably know.
well, just let me say, you know, just to not piggyback on what Tom said, but I think we should allow the process to unfold, the negotiations between the Comptroller's Office, the council, and the mayor as to what they can arrive at. I think it's premature for this body to make a policy statement over policy that hasn't been developed yet. I said,
Right, just from the BPS's standpoint. You're right, we haven't been around in 10 years for the bond market, so how we fit in under this, our old cap. You know, nobody thought about. But we thought about it before we went to the Citizens Planning Council. Right in the comptroller's plan, it said state aidable projects may be excluded from the cap. I talked to the staff, gee, sure, it's state aidable. So we go through the whole Citizens Planning Council. They highly recommended all of our projects because of the inability. We were put on a schedule. If you submit and get New York State approval and do this and that and get town council, we'll sell you bonds. We did every single one of those things. Every one of our projects has been bid award, shovel ready, and then at one point I was told, I don't want to talk to that man anymore. So that's how far the discussions went in a mature way. So here's our alternative. Thank God for our fund balance. We could take money out of our fund balance and pay for these construction costs, hurting the city of Buffalo, hurting the district. That's what bonds are for. That's why New York State recommends the sale of bonds for capital projects. We're sort of on the sidelines saying, boy, this doesn't make any sense, and no one's listening to us. City did, and they charged right through, included our projects, the city, the common council, they did wonders for us, and now we are where we are. And it just makes no sense. No one.
Have you thought that this is totally, I'm out of the realm, so.
Yeah.
I mean, who in the comptroller's office are you dealing with? Financial advisors, bond lawyers?
Sure.
Who?
Her staff, Greg Zismansky, who's been wonderful. Rick Gansey,
He's the financial advisor.
He thinks, oh my God, this is great. Oh, if your projects are ready to go, but it sort of gets stopped at the door of the comptroller, to be honest. Now, we can't continue like this. For an organization as large as ours, with as many buildings and as many needs, we cannot be part of this process going forward if this is the result every year. So we've investigated that with Fred and Jeanette.
So is it safe to assume that Szymanski and Gansey and all of them are on the same page as you guys?
Yes.
Relative to selling the bonds and the reimbursement?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we just want to be careful at this point.
Oh, yeah.
They're going through the process. I think we all agree that in some cases, if you're replacing windows in schools or roofs, that this is going to lower operating costs over time, that these may very well be important projects that shouldn't wait. And the question becomes, how do we recommend a policy, and how do we review the history and everything else to help the school district, the comptroller's office, and the city get on the same page, and hopefully we'll be able to make that kind of recommendation in the near future. But I'll be talking to as many of you as I, get a hold of, to be able to make sure that we understand what's going on and everybody has a voice in this process. Okay, if there are no other questions from the board, do we have any questions from the community? Anyone from the press that wants to ask a question?
Hi, I would like to ask a question.
Yes.
Sorry, I'd just like to ask a question to Mr. Keating here.
Yes.
Welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
Just want to ask, what was the conversation like with Governor Hochul? What was her pitch to you? What resonated with you to join this board?
Well, I didn't talk to her directly, but staff had asked me, I asked why, since I hadn't done this work in over 30 years. And I took it as a compliment that they said, they know me enough to know that I was level-headed and had no personal agenda. That and my interest in the city convinced me to accept.
Okay. Thank you. If that's it, this concludes the meeting of the Buffalo Fiscal Authority. Is there a motion to adjourn, Tim? Tom, you can second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we